Welcome to the Deep Dive. We sift through, well, frankly, mountains of reviews, analysis, all that industry buzz, and we bring you the core insight, the stuff you actually need to know.
Get you up to speed fast.
Exactly. Today, we're jumping back into the grid. Our focus, the big one, TRON's ARES.
Highly anticipated, yeah.
We've gone through all the major takes, the trades, the critics, you name it, trying to figure out this puzzle.
It is a bit of a puzzle, isn't it?
How can a film get called a dazzling sensory showpiece by pretty much everyone,
Right.
and yet at the same time get hit with this split verdict that really seemed to, well, hamstring it commercially?
And that's the paradox we're digging into. We want to give you that shortcut to understanding where ARES lands.
So what's the quick take, the synthesis?
Okay, the short verdict, based on everything we've seen, ARES absolutely nails the look and the sound. It's this incredible, neon-drenched, industrial scorched action sci-fi thing. Really high quality on that.
There's always a bet.
But yeah, it just doesn't quite manage to weave that spectacle together with a story that grabs you. Critics consistently called the narrative uneven, both in tone and just basic storytelling.
And that translated to the box office.
It seems so. Underwhelming performance, especially considering the massive scale of the production.
Okay, let's unpack this, starting with this story. I mean, TRON has always had these bigger ideas, right? About creators, programs, AI.
Definitely. Philosophical roots.
So, for someone listening, maybe not deep in the lore, what's the actual conflict driving ARES? What's it about?
Right, so the main conflict is really internal existential, focusing on ARES himself. Jared Leto's character.
He's the program.
Exactly. He's not human, not just code. He's an AI, a program that starts to, well, wake up, become sentient within this digital world. And the drama comes from him becoming self-aware enough to actually question his own programming, the orders he's supposed to follow. It's that core tension.
So it's that classic man versus machine idea, but playing out inside the machine.
Pretty much. And the sources say the film uses those familiar franchise bits. You know, the light cycles, the whole grid look.
Yeah, the aesthetics.
But it uses ARES Awakening to kind of push the fight beyond just the digital. It gets more tactile, more like a real-world future tech conflict bleeding out.
Interesting. I saw Variety really highlighted Leto's performance there, trying to find this almost human empathy in ARES.
Yeah, they positioned that as the emotional core. You know, the idea of an AI gaining consciousness, then having to deal with corporate power, human feelings, messy stuff.
That sounds like it should have worked. A strong premise.
It should have. But connecting that premise to how people actually received it, well, that's where it gets complicated. What did the critics generally say?
Well, that's the thing. That initial buzz around the idea didn't really stick. If you look at places like Rotten Tomatoes early on, the consensus was very mixed to middling.
Middling, not what you want for a blockbuster.
Right. And it wasn't like people hated the concept. It was more that the execution felt, I don't know, clumsy, incomplete. That's the vibe from the reviews.
Yeah.
Undercooked, perhaps?
And that lukewarm reception had real immediate consequences. Which brings us straight to the box office numbers. Can't ignore those with a franchise this big.
No, you can't!
Our sources show, yeah, it opened at #1. Decent fan turnout initially.
Strong start, okay.
But the industry watchers, they immediately flagged that the total earnings fell short of commercial expectations. Big time. For a major studio revival, this wasn't just okay.
Exactly.
Yep.
Topping one weekend isn't the goal for a film like this. It needed legs. It needed that strong, positive word of mouth to keep people coming.
Which it didn't get, apparently.
Seems not.
Yeah.
The fact that the financials were seen as disappointing suggests that the cool visuals and the nostalgia, it got the core fans in, but just didn't cross over, didn't get those broad theatrical legs needed to really justify that huge investment.
Okay, but this raises that key question again. If the story's uneven and the money wasn't quite there, how is it still getting so much praise in certain areas? Where did ARES absolutely, undeniably succeed according to the sources? Now this is where it gets really interesting, because almost universally, ARES is called a triumph of craft.
Craft, meaning?
Meaning the way it looks, the way it sounds, it succeeds almost entirely on a sensory level. That's where the praise is focused.
Okay, let's start with the visuals then. That was supposed to be the big draw, right? What specifically were critics raving about in terms of production design?
Oh, the sheer visual scale and ambition. Reviewers threw around phrases like neon negatives, sculpted light, kinetic vehicle choreography.
Sounds intense.
It is. Apparently, the director, Joachim Running, and the cinematography team really worked to make the grid feel like more than just a setting, like it's an actual character in the film. Oppressive, vast.
So not just pretty pictures, but world building through visuals.
Exactly. And not just CG gloss either. That's a key distinction sources made compared to, say, TRON Legacy, which was very sleek, very glassy.
Right, I remember that look.
ARES apparently balances that digital feel with more tactile, physical set moments. Someone described it as less like a clean computer desktop and more like a giant, buzzing neon factory floor.
Huh. So the CG feels like it has weight.
That seems to be the idea. It makes it feel heavier, more real, less sort of floaty.
I did see that Roger Ebert piece quoted a lot.
Yeah.
Just blown away by how spectacularly designed and neon-hued it was. They basically said you have to see it on the biggest screen possible.
Yeah, that sentiment was everywhere. It demands a big screen experience.
That level of sensory focus is pretty rare, even in sci-fi today.
It is. And that demand carries right over into the sound design. The sources were incredibly consistent on this point. The sound isn't just background noise, it functions like an actual character.
Wow, how so?
It apparently helps drive the momentum, maybe even filling in gaps where the script might falter.
And the score itself. Trent Reznor, 9 Inch Nails.
Yeah.
They got constant mentions.
Oh, absolutely. They're seen as the sort of sonic soul of the movie. Their work provides this industrial pulsing backbone.
Industrial pulsing, I could almost hear that.
Yeah, it's not subtle. It apparently turns the action sequences into this full-on oral onslaught. Reviewers literally recommended finding a theater with a powerful sound system.
To feel it.
Exactly, to get the full visceral effect, like it hits you physically. It's a very deliberate choice, you know? It signals the intent. This film wants you to feel it, even if you're not totally tracking every single plot point.
It's genuinely wild how unified the praise is for the look and the sound, just across the board.
Undeniable strengths.
But that just makes the split verdict even starker, doesn't it? Visual and sonic masterpiece. Okay. But that's only half the equation, especially in the TRON world.
Right.
So if it delivered so incredibly on the aesthetics, why the harsh narrative critique? What are those recurring criticisms about the structure, the story, that led to this failure to connect emotionally?
Yeah, the core problem really seems to boil down to integration, or rather, a lack of it, meaning the spectacle constantly overshadows the characters and the story. It ultimately substitutes for character work instead of supporting it. Multiple sources use phrases like visual bravura over genuine stakes.
Oof, that's often the killer criticism for blockbusters, isn't it? Like you get this amazing looking thing,
Yeah.
but there's nothing underneath. Like a beautifully decorated cake that just tastes like, well, cardboard. The promise is huge, but the substance doesn't satisfy.
That's a perfect analogy. I think The Guardian had one of the harsher takes along those lines. They described parts of the film as being closer to an elaborate screensaver than a story with earned emotion.
An elaborate screensaver.
Yeah. It suggests the experience is dazzling, sure, but ultimately pretty superficial because the emotional journey of ARES, which was meant to be the whole point, just gets lost in all that gorgeous noise and light.
But hang on, couldn't you argue that a gorgeous screensaver is exactly what some TRON fans want? Why hold it to that higher emotional standard?
That's a fair point, but I think the consensus is that even the most amazing spectacle needs some kind of emotional anchor to sustain interest for, 2+ hours.
Okay.
And that lack of anchoring seems to show up in other critiques too, particularly around pacing and tonal consistency.
How so?
Sources noted that whenever the film tried to slow down to focus on something intimate, like ARES wrestling with his consciousness or the human characters trying to connect with him,
Yeah.
those moments often got cut short, just boom, interrupted by another big action sequence.
Ah, so no room to breathe.
Pretty much. And that constant interruption leaves those crucial emotional arcs feeling, what was the word? Undercooked.
Undercooked, right.
So you have talented actors like Greta Lee, she was mentioned a lot as providing that needed human core. They're doing really strong work, they're committed. But even their performances couldn't quite compensate for a screenplay that many felt was just too thin to carry the weight of the ideas it was trying to explore.
So it sounds like this combination of really committed performances, world-class visuals and sound,
Yeah.
just wrestling against a script that kept prioritizing the bang and flash over the heart.
That seems to be the crux of it, yeah. Visceral over vulnerable.
Okay, so let's synthesize all this for the listener. For you, deciding whether Tron Ares is worth your time.
Yeah.
Who is this movie ultimately going to work best for?
Right, the ideal audience fit. Based on the consensus, this film is really tailored for viewers who put a premium on that pure visual and sonic immersion.
Spectacle first.
Spectacle first, absolutely. If you're a diehard fan of the whole Tron aesthetic, that specific look, the light cycles, the neon, the industrial vibe,
Yeah.
or if you're just looking for a really design-forward, high-energy sci-fi experience with the soundtrack that you feel, you'll likely walk away pretty impressed.
So it delivers on the aesthetic promise.
It definitely delivers on that, big time.
Okay, so my final takeaway from pulling all this together is that Tron pulls off this weird balancing act. It manages to be, as one source nicely put it, exhilarating and frustrating in nearly equal measure.
That sums it up well.
It's a movie that's constantly asking you to be dazzled, and it succeeds brilliantly at that. But then it also asks you to care, and that's where it seems to falter more often than not.
And you know, that very split, that tension is what makes it such an interesting thing to talk about, a real cultural object.
How so?
Well, it forces us to ask some pretty important questions, especially about franchise filmmaking now. Like, how do you balance that pull of nostalgia, which you need, with genuine innovation in storytelling?
Right, tricky balance.
And maybe a deeper question. Can cinema's sensory power, which is getting more and more extreme, ever really be a complete substitute for emotional connection or intellectual payoff?
That is something to think about long after the credits roll and the neon fades.
Definitely something to mull over.
All right, that wraps up our deep dive into the fascinating case of Tron Ares. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more reviews and content on the latest news, movies, dramas, and books.
Definitely do that.
And hit the bell icon so you won't miss any new updates.